Hello everyone. Good morning for European region and good evening for Asian region. My name is Hontani from Toyota, and I'm currently serving as Chairperson of AUTOSAR. So I'd like to welcome all of you for joining this event, and we are very happy to organize this event. First of all, I would like to appreciate contributors who did hard work with release 2011. Even though we are a little bit difficult situation. Also, with same reason, we have less visibility to public domain. Therefore, colleagues in AUTOSAR consider some solution to overcome that. This is our first time to organize this event as solution. I'm really sad that we could not meet you in person, but we have this kind of virtual way to organize event to invite audience from all over the world. We think this is one of the big benefits, and we have introduction and several interesting parallel technical presentations, followed by networking press sessions. So please take this very good opportunity to connect with each other, because one of the strengths of AUTOSAR is that we have so many experts in our community. So in today's context, as far as we observe press releases from several companies, we recognize that expectation for automotive software is getting higher and higher. And the scope of such expectations are a little bit bigger than AUTOSAR, but we will have several interesting updates which should contribute to such expectation as one of the most essential components. So we have essential features such as energy management, safety, and security on top of basic features like communication and execution features. It will be key differentiators and which makes you excited. So I hope all of you enjoy this event, and thanks for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kenji, for your welcome address, even heartily welcome from my side. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Günter Reichart. I was formerly with BMW, and I'm currently acting as the spokesperson for AUTOSAR. Before we start, I would like to say a few words on AUTOSAR and on our release event. The AUTOSAR mission is to develop and establish the standardized software framework and open E/E system architecture for intelligent mobility in a global partnership of leading companies in the automotive and software industry. This means that AUTOSAR has to deliver in time and quality the software framework what you, the experts in the automotive industry, require to realize the open E/E system architecture for intelligent future mobility. The classical platform is already in a widespread use, and its continuous update is based on this worldwide experience and your feedback out of your practical application. The new adaptive platform has already found its first serious projects by some OEMs, and I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, that it will become the same success like the classical platform. The compatibility of the two approaches and their common elements as part of the foundation form an excellent base to reach our vision. AUTOSAR will be the global established standard for software and methodology, enabling open E/E architectures for future intelligent mobility, supporting high levels of dependability, especially safety and security. As most of you will know, AUTOSAR is not a classical standard with just paper documentation. Instead, it is a living standardization with continuous quality improvement and feature enrichment. The release event is every year dedicated to present the result of this continuous effort to enrich and improve the AUTOSAR standard. Now let's come to the agenda. What we will present in the next hours is an introduction of the new releases and their relation to the classical platform and to the adaptive platform, of AUTOSAR, as well as to foundation and methodology. Rinat Asmus, BMW's representative in the AUTOSAR steering committee and current deputy chairperson of AUTOSAR, will give an overview on the new features and their relation to the broader context of AUTOSAR standardization. After his introduction, we will have 4 presentations, which will explain the releases in some detail. We have clustered it by vehicle energy management, safety, security, and further concepts. The presentations will be given by Manfred Zajicek. He is the BMW AUTOSAR project leader. By Huzaifa Saadat, he is with the company USB and represents BMW in the AUTOSAR consortium as a speaker of the working group safety. By Adrian Baruta from Toyota Motor Corporation Europe, working group security in AUTOSAR, and last but not least by Jennifer Neumüller from Denso in Germany. She is a member of the AUTOSAR project leader team and in Denso responsible for pre-development of standardization platform and software technologies. Rinat Asmus will follow these speakers with an outlook on releases planned for 2021 and on the further directions of AUTOSAR. And then we offer you a Q&A session in which you can raise your questions and our speakers will answer these. I will finish this part with a few closing remarks. But that's not all. You will even have more time to bring your expectations, comments, or questions on the table. You just call up slido.com in your browser and enter the access code #AUT20 to send in your questions and comments using the chat function. Your questions will be answered and discussed in the networking area, which will be active after the closing of this first part. There you can get directly in touch with the experts. If you scroll down a bit, you will find the various areas. Just click on the preferred area and get in live discussion with the experts. We also will offer you an opportunity to raise questions on a potential membership within AUTOSAR if you are interested to become part of our AUTOSAR community. We offer you altogether 1 hour time to network after this first session with colleagues and for exchanging thoughts. So, and now I would like to hand over to Rinat, and I would like to give him some first question on the way. How is standardization done in Corona times, Rinat?
Oh yeah, that's. I hope you can hear me. Thanks, Günter, for this nice introduction as well. It's a heavy year. I mean, there is this usual normal what we are trying to get used to, and I think the biggest thing is that we don't see each other, because in sanitization, I think it's a very important thing that from time to time you just see the faces, although they are from other companies. You share the same ideas, and that's very important for us for the future as well, to make that possible. So I will just continue. Thanks, Günter, for your introduction, and I try also to give you a little bit of a sneak preview what AUTOSAR is really about, and on the other side also what we see as future challenges in the second part. But in between, don't miss that, there is a part where we have a technical overview over the release. This is the general reason why we try to enable you to use the standard as good as possible. We have a kind of mission for us, which is very important. We see ourselves in a global environment, and to standardize the software platforms of the future, but also to look on EE architectures and demands coming inside our cars. This means the standardization is never before important for the future. Our current value chains and working processes are really changing. And with this step, I also would like to highlight a little bit our mission. Our vision in this one is as well that we look on the future and say we are the global standard for the future to enter the automotive field and future mobile industry with intelligent intentions. And saying that, I think there are 3 different aspects very important, such as safety, such as security, which is dependability, in fact, and then also looking on methodology that is providing you a way to include the systems inside to your cars. And this is a very huge task, because we are part of an ecosystem that is changing from the technologies that it's trying to use. And a little bit looking back to the future, AUTOSAR was established 2003, so we are not yet 20 years old, but we are quite good in creating the right technical topics for the future. And if we go for standardization for next step before the serious projects, we try always to enable our partners before we go to serious projects. That's why the early standardization is one approach, and the other approach is to take the standards as they are in the community and to simply summarize them to one solution that can be really used. And these 2 approaches are very important in this context, because reusability is from one platform series in life cycle to another, one of the main aspects of software architectures and the future architectures. You can reuse software from one project to another, but also from supplier to another supplier, but also from OEM perspective. So there are different ideas of reusability in this context. And we found this organization in 2003 to have a good environment, and the co-partners who are leading this project initiated this with management in 3 several levels, because the 9 co-partners are the owner of this organization, and we try to manage that in a way that all partners can share their ideas and use the licenses we are proposing in our development agreement. In fact, there are 2 big licenses that we are using, the development license and the exploitation license. And the exploitation is also one step we are doing today. If we release something, we are bringing it out to outside, to people who can simply look into the standard, but also adopt it to their products. This exploitation is very important. We try to manage that in 3 different aspects. The first one is the governance level from executive board. The strategy part is discussed in the steering committee, and we have the technical steering on the PL team. The PL team is the project leader team, is the most frequent group that are meeting each other and try to help the working groups to establish an environment from technical perspective. Topics like strategy for the future or international approaches are done within the steering committee. And of course, there is an ultimate decision body on top that gives you a stamp to continue for the next year. If we continue to see on the organization how it's more detailed, and this is really the magic area, I would say, where we have a lot of partners introduced in the orange zone, but also in the gray lead working groups. The lead working groups are the most important because they create a kind of network, a kind of net of information, and collect the other working groups the content to the platform idea. The 2 software platforms we are standardizing is the classic platform, but also the adaptive platform. And the classic platform and the adaptive platform are 2 platforms that can be individually built and are described in the lower part of the working groups. The higher part shows the common part of the system that helps us to integrate to a car. So if you have a feature, for example, for vehicle to X or diagnostics, and it includes in both platforms, you discuss that in the diagnostics working group. And if you have something for the demonstrator, for example, in adaptive, or the RTE in the classic platform, you simply join the working group in the dedicated platform. And we usually see also a lot of interaction, because there's a need of communication. The works are really meeting like virtually weekly, and usually we have also face-to-face meetings, which we really would, we're looking forward to have them again, of course, in 21. This is the step where I say I think the most important partners to have our project running are already there. Yeah, we know which topics we need to enable our serious development, and it's a very powerful idea which was established some years ago. But it's today even more important to tackle future challenges. Therefore, we have the required partners. Yeah, just a second. There you go. That's better now. So I'm back again. I think this will disturb. We have, of course, so we are live today. That's a good thing. That's why everybody can call me and interrupt. We have the right partners in place. The core partners that I mentioned are working on developing the organization to the next step. And all the partners with a logo are helping us in the development. Until end of November, they pushed a lot of content to the release. It was bugs, change requests, new concepts, and the really benefit is including the associate partners. More than half of the partners are 150 are simply reusing the standard inside of the product idea. Also strategic partners we have to mention here, which are LG and Denso, that helps us as premium partner at the moment, and attendees are non-profit organizations and universities that are connected to this organization. So you see around 300 partners are really critical value, I think, to establish an important ecosystem for the automotive industry. So let's continue. Check. Still working. Next slide, please. There you go, thanks. We see as well that the vehicle computers of the future, and this challenge is there for decades at the moment. We started with electronic devices that were standardized, and in 1990, then infotainment did a lot of a good step in direction of software development. 2010 was then I think a step for domain controllers and also domain architectures within cars. There were several integration platforms within the EE architectures. And what we are now looking into is 2025 with so-called vehicle computers in the middle, which are highly integrated systems and have a kind of zone architecture for the car developed, where sensors are also reused in the back. We will see this picture in a more detailed way later, but I also would like to go on with a little bit of deep dive how this technically is connected. So this car has in the middle a kind of Ethernet backbone that communicates with usual standards from IEEE, for example. And we use protocols for the physical layer to interact, such as DDS or SAM-IP, and then to connect the classic platform, adaptive platform, with non-AUTOSAR platforms, such as proprietary solutions from individual partners. And this is somehow the picture how EE systems are looking from the bus perspective. But if you look on each platform individually, there are clear demands from platforms, such as safety and security. If you go for up to ASIL-D systems for classic platform, for example, it is a field-proven platform that gives you a range of suppliers and a high level of efficiency in the hard real-time deployment. And we see also a possibility in flexibility and like the complex device driver approach. So you can easily go up to microseconds with this platform. It's also verified and certified up to ASIL-D, which gives you the right approach to make safe systems. And looking further, we said, what's the next step? I think 5 years ago, we established a study group. And if you look back at standardization within 5 years, it sounds like a lot of time, but we are releasing since 3 years the adaptive platform. And there are already now, as we are talking today, cars driving with the adaptive platform on the road. And there will be even more starting with next year. That's why it's important to understand that we are not just talking about standards that are somewhere written down in paper. They are provided by suppliers and integrated by OEMs to our cars. And if we look back, then where we started is usually safety and security, because this is what the community is known for. We have high dependable systems, and this is also what we want to push inside to the standard of the adaptive platform. Extend that to the connectivity approach, because we are only one part in a highly integrated system, in a HPC, and also to add an update and dynamic mechanisms to update software parts, because we don't think that an ECU will last with the same software version for years. We need to update that from the whole image, but also maybe with smaller parts on function cluster level. So all these 3 aspects are added then based for POSIX and Linux system as an operating system below. And you add some function clusters on top that gives you a possibility to highly integrate future features. I would like, next slide, thanks. If you take the summary as the differences, so classic and adaptive. The classic platform has millisecond latency and response time capabilities, and microsecond and the milliseconds are done on the adaptive platform. So we talk about soft real-time applications, but it also gives you a certification level up to ASIL-B, and of course higher computing power for the adaptive platform. And the classic platform is used for microcontrollers, so not microprocessors like the adaptive platform. And this gives also a possibility to distinguish in your hardware architecture. Let's continue what's new. I mean, this is something which also introduces already the next topic, where we really appreciate today to have the great experts from the community with us. And it's I think, a very great step, because 2020 challenged us a lot in the idea we standardize things. We were somewhere in the middle of the year, and COVID really challenged individual people, the companies, but also the community itself. Although it was happening, everybody did the best they could, and they achieved a great work. That's why we would like to pronounce that today. And what's in there? So I would like to give you a short overview. We start with a foundation. The foundation is like your basement. If you start a car, you have a system-wide standardization need for topics in the area of security, safety, or energy management here. So I will just highlight some of them, like intrusion detection systems and system health management. On the other side as well, I think Ethernet wake up on data line is an important thing. And these 3 features are developed within one individual concept and then brought into the dedicated specifications. So the platforms we are building on top of this foundation can reuse this layer of basement. And let me just take 2 arrows to the higher level. So then the platforms are deployed on top. you try to enable, of course, your EE architecture, and then the classic platform jumps in. And we see topics like 10-base T1S, a new protocol layer for Ethernet parts, or a very extensive concept for flexibility. We understood classic platform has some constraints in the deployment, and we try to make that leaner for the future. On the other side, I think adaptive platform, it's a little bit bigger from the size perspective because it includes as well a demonstrator. The whole AUTOSAR organization went through a lot of changes in the last 2-3 years, including the demonstrator was one perspective to validate the adaptive platform with one source code baseline to a release. And this time it's released in time to synchronize together with the specification. And I'm very proud of the community, but also the release management, technical management, but also the software development engineer who really, so head off, really, you really did a great job here. Just to highlight the adaptive platform a little bit, we have an architecture layer, which is new. We include decisions of architects and the design. In the design, we see an UML model, how the class diagrams are connected. The main language is C++, so we have a C++ language binding in the middleware. And then some concepts again comes on top, like the crypto API, which was a hard job over the last years, and the IAM, identity and access management, from the security corner. But you will get a lot of more details in the next slot. So I would just like to conclude on the last slide. And there are always some numbers around. It gives us a little bit of an impact or an imagination how this work was done. And I would just like to summarize some numbers for the release 2011 and as the last slide. And you see 3,038, then 1,829 up to one topic. And let's start with the biggest number. We have 3,038 incorporation tasks among the whole community done in 3 standards. We included a change 1,829 change requests within the AUTOSAR community. They were discussed and then pushed to a change control board and the architecture team to approve them. We have 295 partners collaborating in 20 working groups, as we have seen today, and 14 new concepts for adaptive and classic to tackle the future goals. So 14 concepts, that's a high value still for both platforms. And we standardize 2 software platforms and try to achieve one holistic EE system architecture for future intelligent mobility. This sums up it to the idea we have with the first parts, which means with the vision and the mission. And I hope I could give you in 20 minutes a really nice wrap up of the package of the release, but also looking forward to your questions in Slido. And I will hand over right now to Manfred, who's jumping in the technical sessions, and appreciate also your questions afterwards. So Manfred, what do you think? Is this energy management topic we have included? What is the biggest deal in it, and where does it really help?
Yeah, thank you, Rinat, for the overview and the question. Yeah, power management or power consumption, the cars are all the time increasing due to the fact that we have more and more functionality included into the vehicles. So therefore, next to security and safety aspects, also power consumption aspects come into the game, so to say. And I would like to shortly present to you the concepts which are important to deal with the vehicle energy management. So the presentation is divided into 3 parts. I will give a short overview, then continue with the concepts overview. So we have 3 concepts here, and then I will close with the summary. So, as I mentioned, power consumption is very important in the car. And since AUTOSAR release 4, we offer already the possibility to reduce the energy consumption. And how is this done? You just have the possibility in a vehicle, you have the ECUs, and you have the possibility to switch them off partly. So this is called partial network. And in the picture you see here, it's quite simple, but nowadays the complexity is increasing. And on the next slide, you will see an advanced, so to say, topology. And in reality, it looks more like this. Yeah, so I have today up to, I would say, 100 ECUs in a car. And in addition, you have back-end communication. And due to safety requirements, also the topology is more and more complex. And what basically the concept is doing, if you put in 2 examples, for example, you're sitting in a car, you're not driving, you're parked, but you want to add a destination to your navigation system, then you only power those ECUs which are needed. These are shown here in yellow. Another example could be, for example, that you have parked your car and you want to exit the car. And there are some driving assistance features today, for example, to avoid that you have collisions with obstacles when you open the driver's door. You have, for example, the possibility to leave the sensors active, so the radar sensors, to detect, for example, a bicycle, that you don't hit it when you exit. All the others ECU then are unpowered, so and only the yellow one are powered. So this is basically what it's all about. And to realize this, we even extended now in this release the possibilities. So let's jump to the concepts directly. The first one is the rework of PNC handling. So we support with this concept more complex network topologies. To do this, we introduced the so-called top-level PNC coordinator, which has an eye about the activities in the car. And we also, at least it is planned already, to improve the interaction between the communication manager and the network management. You see it on the right on the slide on the, let's say, architecture overview with the yellow marked software modules. So this concept affects mostly the communication manager and the network management modules. One note, besides, of course, this architecture you have seen is very, let's say, simplified. In reality, of course, you know, it's we have lots more additional modules here, but it's just a focus for this vehicle energy management. The next concept goes even a step further. It's called Vehicle Network State Management, VNSM. And today, we only had, or in the past, we had only the possibility to have a static assignment of partial networks in a car. But now, with this release, you also have the possibility to dynamically assign new partial networks, for example. This is very helpful if you have different variants of a car where you want to plug ECUs into different topologies, and then this concept can detect where a new ECU is connected to. And also a second scenario would be that you, for example, have a functionality you buy in the aftermarket sales, for example, and then this functionality is added to an ECU, and also this new functionality then needs a dynamic update of the PNC, so partial network mapping. So this is also possible with this. So it allows you this dynamic partial network mapping. And also, due to additional ECUs, we also need more than to be able to configure more than 56 partial networks. So since, for example, CAN-FD or Ethernet allows you a bigger frame on the bus, we can also have more partial networks defined. On the lower left side, you see that you can imagine that this concept is quite complex on the one hand. On the other hand, it offers lots of new possibilities in respect to reduce the power consumption in the car. And on the right side, once again, the simplified architecture. You see here once again the communication manager and the network management modules are those modules which are affected most. And they will also, in the next phase, will also make use of the optimized interaction between communication manager and network management with new direct control APIs. Last but not least, the next concept is, Rinat already mentioned it, it is the concept Ethernet wake on data line. So we already support the bus wake up on CAN and FlexRay, and the missing part, so to say, was Ethernet. And now with the 2011 release, we can also offer you the possibility to wake up Ethernet on the bus or via the bus. And this concept is based on the Open Alliance TC10 specification. In this case, you also see the affected modules. And since this is very hardware related, you see that the lower layers are affected here. So the switch, the driver, the transceiver, the Ethernet interface, Ethernet state manager, COM manager, and PSWM. So to go to the summary, with these three concepts all together, we can now even further reduce the energy consumption. We support more complex topologies. We have the possibility of more dynamic assignment of partial networks. We have the Ethernet wake-up support, and we will have in future the optimized partial network architecture between communication manager and network management. So this closes the presentation about the vehicle energy management. If you have questions, please use the slido.com site to raise all your questions which you might have right now. And I would like to thank you for your attention and would like to hand over to Huzaifa now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Manfred. So hello, everyone. My name is Huzaifa Saadat, and I will present safety-related concepts that have been released in Release 2011. I'm the speaker of Working Group Safety in the AUTOSAR Consortium, and as you see on the agenda, would take a look at three concepts from safety perspective. The first one being system health monitoring, the second one being the RS safety, and the third one being deterministic sync. Starting off with system health monitoring, the idea behind system health monitoring is to have a platform agnostic health monitoring mechanism, as shown in the figure on the right. The concept realizes system-wide coordination of health statuses and errors. It is based on a master-client topology, where the client sent platform-specific health, and the master calculates and propagates health indicators, for example, performance, reliability, and subsystem, as shown at the bottom of the picture. The granularity of health indicators might be different levels. For example, subsystem level, it might be at a feature level, it might be at a domain level or a vehicle level. At the end, this information might be helpful for entities such as vehicle state manager to perform specific machine recoveries, such as moving a machine in the degradation mode. And yeah, I would probably sum up this concept by saying that it is a platform-independent mechanism to monitor the health of machines across the vehicle. Moving on to the next concept, RS safety, namely. In the last release, we just had, as you see on the picture on the right side, explanatory safety overview, which was a good starting document for functional safety engineers in the domain of AUTOSAR, specifically adaptive AUTOSAR. We had developed only the adaptive AUTOSAR part in the last release. And the idea was to have those very generic high-level safety requirements that are described in RS main, which is basically the main top-level document in AUTOSAR, to a more concrete thing or a more concrete safety requirements. And then from those high-level requirements, we derived functional safety requirements and technical safety requirements. And then we realized that this is just an explanatory document, and an explanatory document might not be taken as seriously for standardized or for implementation as a proper RS document with requirements. So the idea was just to have our goals or safety element out of context, which we treat the adaptive platform currently and maybe also in the future the classic platform in safety overview document, but this RS safety document, which you see in the picture in the middle, is then a very concrete requirements document, which has then functional safety requirements and technical safety requirements. And these requirements are towards each function cluster in adaptive platform, so that they could realize or trace up to these requirements. So far, we've only managed the adaptive platform part, and hopefully in the upcoming releases, we will also concentrate on classic platform, though they're already quite stable, and there is still a debate and a question whether we should move those stable documents into RS safety and have a separate explanatory safety overview document for classic platform. So to sum it up, I would say this RS safety document is the single most important document for AUTOSAR functional safety engineers. Moving to the next slide and the next concept, it is the deterministic sync. So deterministic synchronization was already implemented in on the right-hand side. You see on the top in bold the specification where it was implemented. SWS execution management has a dedicated chapter for time determinism and data determinism, but its realization was probably not the best or was not so achievable. And the idea with deterministic sync concept was to provide support of redundant execution with multiple deterministic clients, as you can see on the pictures on the right-hand side. Then the second thing was that we wanted to describe the synchronization behavior and requirements for cyclic activation. For this, we had to practically implement, or we had to make use of already existing time sync in the context of deterministic client. This is also a very good thing that you can see in AUTOSAR, how different ideas or concepts come together for a better safety perspective. Then the time resources themselves are secured through IAM, Identity and Access Management. So this is basically, again, a great concentration, as Rinat also mentioned, from the consortium itself, that we have safety and security relevant requirements or realizations. This concept itself also provides an initial guidance on the usage of software lockstep and supports different use cases, from a very simple use case, as you see on the right, the first or on the top, the first picture, single domain deterministic synchronization. Then you've got cross-domain deterministic synchronization, and then finally it could be a very wide range of determinism by centralized and distributed deterministic sync master. So I would conclude this concept as realization of time determinism in adaptive platform. And yeah, that's kind of concludes my presentation. If you have any questions related to AUTOSAR in general, then please put your questions into slido.com. You also see the link or banner where you can add your questions. So thank you very much. And with this, I will hand it over to Adrian.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So I will give you a quick overview from Working Group Security and the concept we've been working on for this release, which is Identity and Access Management, Intrusion Detection System Manager, and Crypto API. So for this release, we managed to achieve quite a lot, I think, especially given the circumstances. So we developed a completely new concept and we released the specification for Intrusion Detection System Manager. We extended and fixed the design and specification for adaptive platform Crypto API. We standardized a template approach to deploy identity and access management on adaptive platform functional clusters and access management from remote ECU to services via the static configuration of remote identity and access management. And we also released the protocol specification for SecOC as part of the foundation, and improved the specification on the adaptive platform side, which is in communication management. So although when we started the development of security features in AUTOSAR many years ago, there was no regulation framework. But this year, the UNECE Work Package 29 regulation on cybersecurity was adopted. And this will become mandatory for all new vehicle types from 2022 and for all new vehicles produced from July 2024. Here I extracted only a few examples from the requirements and mitigation techniques mentioned in the Annex 5 of the regulation document, and I'm highlighting here only the ones that are directly linked to our activities for this release. So we have measures to detect malicious internal messages or activity, which maps directly to Intrusion Detection System Manager. We have security controls for storing cryptographic keys and measures to protect system data and code, which maps to Crypto API. Define and control user roles and access privileges, which is identity and access management. Verify the authenticity and integrity of messages received. So this is SecOC protocol. Of course, on top of already supported secure onboard communication protocols like TLS and IPsec. So IAM uses the principle of least privilege, and the goal is to limit the potential damage caused by a compromised application or remote ECU. And we defined a template approach and a workflow that covers the description during application design of what an application intends to do, and granting the permission during the deployment phase. So in our approach, we considered two major scenarios. So first scenario is application access control to services provided via adaptive platform functional clusters. So here we are talking about the same machine only. And with our standardized approach, we can deploy access control to services provided by any functional clusters. And in this release, we deployed IAM for platform health management functional cluster. The second scenario is access to service-oriented communication, where not only local machine is involved, but you can also have applications on another ECU that can access methods over some IP communication. And in this case, we distinguish between local applications, where we want to limit which services local application can access, or remote ECU, where we want to restrict which locally provided services can be accessed by a remote ECU. Of course, we also have some assumptions. For local ECU, additional security measures must be considered, example like proper isolation or secure boot. Some of these requirements we previously released, and we also have requirements on trusted platform. For remote ECU, we need to rely on secure communication channels like TLS and IPsec between the ECUs, which is already supported by both adaptive platform and classic platform as well. In order to comply with the regulation, we will have to prove a process used to monitor, detect, and respond to cyber attacks and vulnerabilities in the vehicle. Therefore, an in-vehicle intrusion detection system becomes a prerequisite for obtaining a vehicle type approval. AUTOSAR approach is a distributed onboard intrusion detection system where any application or stack component can act as a sensor, reporting security events to an intrusion detection system manager via standardized interfaces. And IDSM qualifies security events using qualification filters. And once the events are qualified, there are two options: either store them locally in the security event memory, which was already standardized before, or send the events via PDU router over the network to an IDSR that reports to a backend security operation center. So the benefits of AUTOSAR IDSM is that you get standardized interfaces to report security events, you have qualification filters, you have standardized protocol to transmit qualified security events over the network, so you don't really have to worry about the interoperability between different ECUs. And so far, we already standardized some security events for some selected basic software components like Key Manager or Diagnostic or SecOC, and we have a security event extract template. But of course, we plan to extend the security events list in the following release. Last topic is Crypto API, which is a key security control to achieve authenticity, integrity, and confidentiality of any data. But first, I would like to explain what was our motivation for an adaptive platform AUTOSAR specification. So AUTOSAR goals are to have a decoupling of hardware and software, and we want to be able to develop application independent of lower basic software stacks, so kind of horizontal layers, and to reduce development time and cost. And we want to be able to reuse software components. Now, some major issues with existing crypto solutions in the market that would be suitable for a POSIX-based system is that hardware and software solutions are changing and quite fast, since the users are not only AUTOSAR or automotive users, and also the timeline is independent from AUTOSAR releases or OEM vehicle planning in this matter. And this makes it quite difficult to achieve our goals. For crypto, we have a standardized API, crypto API library, and a standardized functionality for the stack components with three major functional blocks: the crypto primitives or transformation, which is the crypto provider, a key storage provider, and dedicated certificate support via X509 provider. It offers more flexibility for applications, so it's easier to use and configure for specialized application with a high demands on cryptographic operation that maybe needs to have exclusive control over the keys. But it still keeps some aspects from classic platform side, and it's compatible with some aspects from classic platform, allowing OEMs to manage platform keys. For example, when we deploy secure communication, or to manage other platform keys like keys used for secure storage, like storing security events. So in classic platform, you configure the crypto jobs, and in adaptive platform, you can configure the key slots to be used by platform components, like communication management, and also the keys used by platform components can be loaded by an OEM key manager application. So just a recap of what we did for this release. So we managed to extend the list of security controls provided by AUTOSAR with a new concept, the Intrusion Detection System Manager. We extended and improved the specification for access management and adaptive platform crypto API, and we released the protocol specification for SecOC on top of existing security communication protocols, IPsec, TLS. We already mentioned I already mentioned that we plan the extension of security events, but we also have new concepts in plan. So if you wish to support these activities, don't hesitate to contact us. And if you have any questions on the presentation, please ask them on Slido. And later on, we also have a networking virtual room. So please don't hesitate to contact us. So Thank you very much, and I will now hand over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Adrian. So you have already heard from my colleagues about the new features you can expect with regards to vehicle energy management, safety, and security. And I will now introduce what else you can expect with this upcoming release. I would like to focus especially on what new features we're bringing with regards to software updates, especially over-the-air software updates, and application interfaces. So in the past releases, AUTOSAR has already introduced the UCM Master, which supports over-the-air updates of adaptive platforms. And with this release, we have one major new feature, and that is that the UCM Master now supports updating not only adaptive platform, but also the distribution of updates to classic platform and third-party platforms over the newly introduced flashing adapter using the UDS protocol. You also get an improved campaign history reporting, which adds much better information so that you can identify update issues in the vehicle. If you're an AUTOSAR partner, then you have access to the adaptive platform demonstrator, and this already contains, thanks to our quite busy UCM implementers, a basic implementation of the UCM master, which demonstrates a push case connected to a Hawkbit backend. So to summarize, the UCM master, which is part of the adaptive platform, now not only handles software update distribution for adaptive platforms, but also for classic platforms and third-party platforms in the vehicle. Next slide, please. Speaking about classic platform, previously the classic platform was basically a monolithic binary. So if you changed even a tiny bit in the application, the entire binary was rebuilt. With this release, we're now introducing a new feature that allows you to split the classic platform into several software clusters. We call it the classic platform flexibility concept. The basic software forms the host software cluster, and you can design and split your application layer into different compositions, which can be independently developed, tested, released, and programmed on the target ECU. The connection between these individual software clusters is based on binary objects. With 2011, with this release, we have like a first version of this now introduced, but we already have a roadmap of more improvements to come here so that you have more flexibility in designing your software clusters. So from this release on, you can split your classic platform into separate compositions, which are separately buildable and can be independently updated. Next slide. There's not so well-known part of the AUTOSAR standard, and that is the application interfaces. Actually, for several years, we have already released the application interfaces, which standardize interfaces of classic software components to enable exchangeability of parts. We have this standardized for several domains. And with this release, we see a new introduction to the chassis domain, the vehicle motion control interface. This introduces a new layered structure which separates between ADAS applications like adaptive cruise control or autonomous emergency brake over manager components, so ADAS manager, vehicle manager, down to sensor and actuator interfaces. We're standardizing here the logical architecture and the interfaces between these components. And this enables you to retrofit automated driving interfaces. This is actually aligned with JASPAR, with the Japan Automotive Software Platform and Architecture Initiative. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, until now, we only had classic platform application interfaces, but with this release, we're actually also standardizing interfaces based on adaptive AUTOSAR. And these are called the ADA sensor interfaces. This is based on ISO 23150, which only covers the semantic definition of interfaces. And in AUTOSAR, we are now standardizing all aspects to make them fully compliant to the AUTOSAR adaptive interfaces. And these are the automated driving interfaces between sensors and data fusion applications or automated driving applications. They are released as adaptive platform services, and the target is to reduce development and integration time, and again, to enable the exchangeability of applications. Next slide, please. So this is not all that we have released, and just to summarize and to also tell you what else you can get. So last but not least, we're also introducing support to 10-base T1S, both in classic and adaptive. So now you can use the IEEE standard supporting 10 megabit per second Ethernet frames. We are also unifying the AUTOSAR timing and tracing. So both classic and adaptive will offer unified methods for timing design and verification. And this is also aligned with the ASAM project, standardizing the profiling and trace format. And on ARACOM, which is the communication interface of adaptive AUTOSAR, we are also bringing an enhancement, the ARA communication groups, which achieves synchronized application communication. And the use case for this is to have a faster mode switching process for adaptive platform. Next slide, please. So as has already been mentioned by Günter, I think also by Rinat, this was an extremely challenging, difficult year. I don't need to mention why it has been like this. I think everyone knows. We just want to say thank you. We have introduced more than 16 concepts. We've introduced notable new features. So I want to say thank you to all our partners, to all our experts for their very hard work in this difficult year to make this successful release happen. So same as my predecessors, if you have questions, please ask them on Slido. You see again here the tag entered. And thank you very much for your attention. And I will hand now back to Rinat, who will give you a glimpse of next year's release, what you can expect from that one.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your jumping in here for the deep dives, and I think this gave a really good overview over the features we can expect now to see future in our cars. And I would like to start with a small introduction to the car architecture. I think if we are looking directly to our cars, the sketch how it could be done in the EE architecture is similar to this one. We have vehicle controllers that are implementing a subset of functionalities for several domains. And the integration tasks for the central units is a huge task for an OEM. There are also some variations, which of them are done with adaptive, which with classic. At the end, on the boardnet level, they all talk AUTOSAR. The question is how much in the platform you like to reuse your the standardized concepts. And besides that, there are also third-party platforms that are integrated on the same processor architectures. Also looking on sensor ECUs we have in our cars, classic platform is established there, and I think up to ASIL-D you can be safe that your sensor infrastructure is running properly. With this hardware architecture, the one thing in mind is how to bring this complex thing inside our cars in an appropriate time. Therefore, you need tooling, you need templates, and you need a data model that helps us in the integration. The data model we are providing with AUTOSAR has a strong methodology. That's why the safety certification is a help to be bound or to be built on this methodology, and it's split to four several areas. The first area is VFB. You usually start with a virtual function bus describing technology agnostic specific information that are going through your network. Then you talk usually about with software component providers, or you develop by yourself your application software that has to be deployed. With that, you know your basic software requirements which are developed in parallel, right? Together to an EE system, you combine it to a system extract and later to a system description. And it can include also an abstract system description to this. At the end, the truth comes together to an ECU deployment, and the XML schema gives us a base for certification, but also for validation of several compiler infrastructures. This is why it's so important to have one common approach and not explaining the suppliers with every project the same methodology. Looking for the future, Next slide, please. There we go. That's too fast. Looking to the future a little bit. We hear to outside. We hear your voices when you talk about standardization is too slow. Standardization is something that is outdated. But at the end, standardization is the base for communication. And you can always create one solution that gives you a capability to work more efficient in the local optimization. But at the end, if you try to scale it to several numbers of cars, of several numbers of platforms, you need to think of your ecosystem you have to create. And the value chain is changing at the moment. So we see in the yellow part, the emerging parts coming from several directions, like hardware, system providers, but also big players giving the whole bunch of functionalities. Also startups really focusing on automated driving features. And the gray area, it is gray not because of the hair, it's gray because of the experience, how to include that in our EE systems. The biggest clash is in the parts where the arrows are broad, which means the operating system in a middleware is something that everybody would like to have in their hands. Why is this the case? The data ownership for the future is split more than in the past. And it will be discussed on this layer. Also, OEMs try to go deeper, I would say, on the integration side. And on the other side, you have suppliers that are a little bit insecure how the future could look like. I don't like to make it very pessimistic for the future, but for us, it's really to sharpen how our future of standardization could look in this ecosystem in general. And we see that the most OEM projects with the revenue starting in 2019 are coming with AUTOSAR partners. So 80% under the selling OEMs are initiating based on the standard their EE architectures. And that's why I'm asking also a little bit with a glimpse to how should we continue in challenges like this. We of course need the players inside of this ecosystem, because one day you will have to discuss the technical implications to the platforms, to the architectures which are outside in our cars, but also maybe developed for the future. And here we see automated driving taking the next step for level 3. The discussion is, I think, in every company similar. Don't want to say the same, but if we see already level 2B or 2+ automated driving system on the road, there is a split between available technologies and what do we need for level 3. I will have a slide after this on that, because also standardization, I think, must change in this direction. To support the value chain we've seen before in the slide, there are 3 different perspectives. I think the EE architectures integration. We have also different scenarios on the platform level integration, but also from the shelf functionalities and also EE systems that can be applied and also acquired from the market. This is important to support from the standard. And for the electrification point of view, I think there's also in the energy management and the power management inside the car, the drive lines of the future are bringing in the focus to electric drive lines. So my question is, where are the platforms that are running these systems? They are in AUTOSAR, but we don't have application software at the moment standardized for those. And the question is simply, why not? So I think there's a big step to bring that into a broad field and understanding what standards looks like on the software platform level. And the last thing I would like to keep as a question, and would like to imagine just the days we had, of course, in the community, and the days hopefully that will come to meet again. But on the other side, we see also that efficient and focused elaboration of standards is possible. And we're taking the virtual challenge here as well in communicating things, I think, wider and also more open than in the past. And I think also this gives us a possibility to change in the right direction. Next slide, please. It's easier than clicking. This is the one I promised for automated driving. There are three perspectives on this. I would need to explain that. That's a life cycle for automated driving development life cycle. And we have two different OEM projects, left or right. And you see here two different standardization organizations that are already connected to each other, because recording, measurement, and also recomputing is with ASAM and a clear focus with the new standards they provide. On the other side, AUTOSAR has a strong focus on onboard architectures. So this combination gives us for automated driving level 3 a good idea to tackle the next step. And the arrow in between is the one thing I think that for the future will be an important step to standardize as well. There are several communities for the data standardization, the cloud standardization, the interaction with the cars based on data. But here the field is not clean yet. So we need to find the way, which standards we can use to make the data available partly for everyone and partly for the OEMs. So it's use case specific, in which use case you need specific amount of data. And on the next slide, I will just give you a little bit of what can you really expect. There are some technical parts, there are some parts from the organizational perspective, and I'm really looking forward to 2021. For me, it's a kind of second step after going back, really thinking in the Christmas times about the future, about how it changed us to collaborate inside our companies, but also in the consortium, and looking forward to the events we will have, right? So there will be an event for as an open conference, which will be virtual somewhere around March. We will think about a virtual all-WG meeting to the middle of the year. We will have, of course, hopefully more concepts coming in, but it's also very important to increase the validation of the adaptive platform. The validation of the adaptive platform can be done by several approaches. The easiest way is that suppliers come to us and say, we implemented this concept, we implemented this specification, we implemented these two specification items, and it worked for us. So there's a checklist, you can check mark them and say, we validated that. That's a great feedback for the consortium, because this will improve the quality of the adaptive platform to be implemented by several others. The second part is, of course, which we can drive, is the validation platform with the APD, with the demonstrator. This we can do for local implementations. And we also do reviews that are just simply saying, okay, from the conceptual point of view, this concept looks good. With saying that, it's for me quite important to highlight that the release 2111 will again have a mix of quality and of new features, because I think this is the important thing to do the threshold in between. We can't just concentrate on concepts and forget about how we deliver the quality, to don't forget the core part of the platform. And we don't concentrate on quality only, because we will forget the future. So the threshold is somewhere in the middle. And with that, I hope we can also organize such a release event for you again next year. Of course, we're looking also to the feedback you have in the Slido and to the questions to the future, but also to the things we've presented. And the document search on AUTOSAR.org, you can simply open that, scroll it to your specification you would like to look for, and soon your AUTOSAR partner, you get also an access to the demonstrator, for example. And if we just have, with one click, a little bit of a view to the times we met each other in the community, there was a small wave we had in in a stadium somewhere in southern Bavaria, organized 2019. So maybe you remember these days, and we share, I think, the anticipation to have such events again with the experts, but also to looking forward what standardization looks like for the future. Because if you also develop something for yourself, it's only one solution. And if you try to make it broad and together develop it with others, it becomes a technology. So, and that's the important thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rinat, for your excellent outlook on 2021. I think we are, I also would like to thank the other speakers for the excellent contributions. I think they gave an excellent insight in the many features of the release 20/11, and I think in combination with which Rinat has indicated the features for 2021. I think we will have future good basis to have a widespread application of AUTOSAR, not only the classic platform, but as I've mentioned before, the adaptive platform will probably have the same success story like the classic platform. Now we are coming to the question and answer section, and we received already some questions from the audience. But before I come to the questions from the audience, I would like to ask Rinat. You mentioned the importance of standardization, even in times where some companies are thinking about more proprietary solutions. And what interests me, and I think probably some people in the audience, is what a role does standardization play when it comes to certification of systems, when it comes to legal cases? So could standardization not be a good help to protect even the company interests if we have, let's say, a common approach which is based on the state of the art?
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Günter. Also maybe the second part of the question comes to the direction of you do the certification usually based on a product, and when it comes to the product, you always have to argue the latest state-of-the-art standards. And it's the easiest way is to say we did it because of norms or regulatory standardizations, but it's much easier to go for a standard which is already implemented among a community such as AUTOSAR. So with the methodology and other perspectives, with the pre-certification by several suppliers, it gives for safety and security a big impact to the product certifications. That's the background for why we do that. And the first part of the question, of course, it's a very tricky one, because we can just draw a picture for now, and now we can say that suppliers and OEMs are really having good processes in place to tackle the way we are building cars at the moment. But as you see that the cars are changing and also the technologies, we need to reshape, I think, our work models for the future. And sanitization has, on platform level, system level, and integration level, a huge impact.
Oh, thank you very much, Rinat, for the answer. Now I have a very easy one for you. Someone asked, will the slides which we have shown during our session, will they be provided afterwards?
Yes, that's easy. So AUTOSAR.org, we will provide it to the ones who registered today And of course, it's in the public domain, so we will share the link maybe with the channels we have.
Okay, so next one is going to you. Is AUTOSAR partnership essential for an organization to receive an AUTOSAR software component from a vendor? You have talked about the license models and...
Yes. So in general, as I said, there is this exploitation. So we distinguish between commercial exploitation. As soon as you create that as part of a commercial product, the exploitation license is needed. And that's why everything that goes to a commercial exploitation, it's helpful to be AUTOSAR partner.
So the next question, I think, let me see. Why AUTOSAR has not standardized more popular peripherals like UA or T, I2C, serial port, etc. in MCall? I think, Rinat, it goes again to you.
So I can answer, but I don't want to talk all the time. We can also share the question. So if anybody would like it. Yeah. So up to you.
Jennifer, would you like to answer?
I think Manfred is the right one for that one, to be honest.
Okay.
As a long-standing member of the communication group.
So, Manfred, it's your floor.
Yeah, thank you for the question. A little bit, I give you a little bit insight. All the protocols specified in the working group IVC, and just that you get an idea, the IVC working group currently has more than 50 documents to handle. You see everything is, or many functionality is related to communication. And so much work is to do, but at least we have specified, for example, SPI. For SPI, we have dedicated drivers for that, driver specification. And of course, if there's the need to specify even UART or other protocols, we can, of course, also put it on the list and invite you also to join the AUTOSAR consortium if you want, and we would appreciate your input here. And of course, in future releases, we can also think about standardize other protocols next to SPI, for example.
Okay, thank you. Next one goes to Rinat, unfortunately again. Could you please give an overview of concepts for release 21.11?
It's good to have Manfred in the back. Thanks. And we have 21.11, so I can pronounce an AOC, as I mentioned before in March. We would like to be more confident on the quality we bring into 21.11 to say this concept or that. We have something in the backlog for safety, security, and several other topics. So the ones who are participating in the consortium knows the magic that pops up for us, and we will communicate them, I think, in the AOC in next year.
Oh, thank you, Rinat. Now you can relax a little bit, since the next question goes to Huzaifa. The question is related to deterministic sync. How could you assure the goal of safety software analysis work, product related data flow assurance and control flow in adaptive platform?
Okay, that's a good question. So firstly, if you're referring to the concept that I presented, it goes more in the direction of time determinism. And we have the other side, which is the data determinism. And the concept directly doesn't say about it, but I can refer you where you can find more about it. It's actually the SWS execution management, which I also referred in my concept presentation. Explicitly, chapter 7.6 mentions deterministic execution, and it has further two subchapters, one for time determinism, one for data determinism. And your question is more in the direction of data determinism, and there we've got a software lockstep idea which you can read. That's one part. The other part is then the control flow. That is actually what PHM is providing, platform health management, in the form of logical supervision. And this you can find in the ASWS health monitoring So you'll find subchapters about logical supervisions, and they go in the direction of control flow then.
Oh, thank you, Huzaifa. The next question also goes to you. How does the AUTOSAR RS safety document relate to the software architecture design in ISO 26262? If it is coupled, it will also be available for classic platform?
Okay, again, a very good question. So I would start off with the explanatory safety overview that we have currently and the RS safety. They started off as adaptive platform documents and have currently in this release a lot of adaptive platform context. And yes, we took a very similar approach to ISO 262. So if you look at the contents of explanatory safety overview, we start with, just in context of adaptive AUTOSAR, taking the architecture itself as a safety element out of context. Then we've got a chapter about assumptions and use cases, after which we've got then a system description, then hazard analysis, then safety goals, and a functional safety concept. Then the scope of explanatory safety overview stops and we move to R safety, which is now concretely giving safety requirements towards adaptive AUTOSAR. They start, of course, with or firstly trace to the safety goals that were described in explanatory safety overview and give firstly functional safety requirements, which are quite generic. They might be towards classic platform or adaptive platform. We don't, of course, talk about the exact function cluster or the exact module that would be implementing it. After which we've got then a chapter for technical safety requirement. Currently the one from classic platform is empty and we hope that we will fill it for the next release, 2111. But the one from adaptive platform has technical safety requirements towards functional safety, towards function clusters. And this is how basically it all fits together with ISO 262.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you. And the next question goes to Jennifer. In AUTOSAR Classic, splitting by containerization, I assume that change management is not applicable. Only defect management is applicable to concept. Is it true?
Okay, let me try to answer that question. So it is true that currently there's a lot of restrictions as to what you can replace in classic AUTOSAR with this splitting into clusters. So you can only update a cluster which already existed before. You cannot dynamically add a new one. That doesn't work. And we also have a lot of boundary conditions what cannot be changed on especially the outside interfaces and service usages here. So yes, probably the primarily use case is to have defect management to replace something where there was something broken. You can also probably update some inner workings of that one, but yes, there are a lot of restrictions in that one. So it's not as flexible as the adaptive AUTOSAR. And I think that's also not the use case here.
Okay, thank you. I think also the next question is probably related to you. What were the criteria to choose Hawkbit, not obtain for OMA DM as a reference backend for update?
I'd have to talk to the respective work group to that one. To be honest, I know they also looked at Uptane. I'm not sure if they looked at OMA DM, but I'm not right now sure why they chose Hawkbit unless Adrian knows it because it's his colleague who was involved. But sorry, I would have to take that back.
Good.
I don't know the details either. So, but I think all were evaluated, and in the end, you can still implement Uptane or OMA DM and be compatible with what AUTOSAR specified.
Okay, thank you. So next question is let's see who can answer it. How does adaptive AUTOSAR position itself with respect to ROS2 in areas of ARA.com, execution management, state management, platform health management, security, log and trace? Who wants to answer it? I think each one of you can give a comment since it involves many issues. Shall I repeat it? How does adaptive AUTOSAR position itself with respect to ROS2 in areas of ARA-COM, execution management, state management, platform health management, security, log and trace.
So I think also to give the bridge a little bit, the DDS protocol is used by ROS2 as a second network binding with ARA-COM. And there is already a compatibility to ROS2 platforms intended to have. And of course, the simulation framework is important for areas like automated driving. And to have that in the same platform integrated, I think that's a future important goal for us.
Okay. Anyone else wants to comment? No.
And I can also say a couple of words from security side. Actually, we started a concept development to align with DDS security features and to be able to incorporate them in our AUTOSAR framework. We didn't manage for this release, but we are still working on this topic, and I hope for one of the next releases we will have a concept already released for this part.
Okay. No, thank you very much. And the next question goes to Huzaifa. As for deterministic think, does it rely on the LET feature mentioned in time analysis specification?
I'm not sure about that. Yeah, would have to look at a bit deeper in the concept, but it definitely uses time sync of the AUTOSAR. Whether it's specifically the LET feature, I can't say for now.
Okay. So probably the person who has asked for it probably can later on in the networking area establish a further discussion with you, and probably you can clarify it after our session today.
I would also have to look it up, and I can probably also share some content in that context, and yeah.
So thank you. Then we have the next question. Does AUTOSAR plan to standardize on a concept for an API for the described connections to cloud services? Rinat, I think you can answer it.
Yeah, so for cloud services, I think there is a step in between, because Adaptive already handles some service-oriented approaches and architectures. The cloud solutions today have this clear demand to describe with a lean API and IDL the service orientation. And I think from methodology perspective, there is a way to go to attach that. And then the second question is, I think, how the protocols are interacting with several cloud directions, but also to vehicle-to-X interaction. We don't see at the moment a strong standardization possibility within the software platforms, because there are several solutions.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, does AUTOSAR develop out-car communication specifications such as vehicle-to-X, cloud communication, and so on? So it's very similar. I think also, Rinat, you can answer it.
Okay, but also the others, we can also discuss on that a little bit. You can maybe put it like this with the hand and then also say something. But I think it's similar to the question before. The V2X is an important thing when we talk about automated driving higher than level 2B. It comes together with a lot of infrastructure changes that are demanded for the infrastructure of our cars. And this takes time, and the soon we see clear possibilities for platforms to standardize that, I think there will be demands by the OEMs.
From my side also.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, especially vehicle-to-X communication, as you have seen on several slides in the presentations right now, you see that we already have in focus the back-end communication to cloud services, or also, of course, vehicle-to-X. The IVC working group already worked on this some years ago. There's a little bit, let's say, difficulty to integrate it in the AUTOSAR architecture, because the vehicle-to-X has a little bit different layering, but we are basically working on vehicle tags for China and also for the rest of the world. So
okay.
Have it in mind.
Okay, so we work already on it. So what is the status of the discussion about adaptive diagnostics, service versus API, especially which status of that is realized and usable in the demonstrator? I think, don't want to ask all the time, Rinat. So Jennifer, probably you can say a word on it.
I can certainly say a word to the demonstrator status. So currently that is one of the major points we are working on. So we expect that with the next release, you will see a massive improvement there. Currently, it's not in such good shape, unfortunately. So for 21.11, it is our target to have that usable in the demonstrator.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else who want to comment on it? No, I think it's already covered. Is there any plan to support CXPI based on ISO 27794, which is initially developed by Denso? Since Jennifer, you are from Denso and you are within AUTOSAR, yes. Probably you know it perfectly.
So currently it is not part of the AUTOSAR standard, and it will depend also on my own company's motivation to bring it in, or on JASPAR, which I mentioned before, the Japan Automotive Initiative, to bring it into AUTOSAR. I will take it back to my own company. Of course, AUTOSAR won't be opposed to bringing this in. So I'll take it back if we want to push this into AUTOSAR.
Okay, so thank you. Then the next question goes, let me see, to Jennifer. If I'm starting SOP 2024 project in automated driving, which adaptive AUTOSAR implementation should I take? Which is most complete, development friendly? Can also be, I think, answered to some part by Rinat.
The latest one. So we've made massive improvements. We've made massive improvements, so take this one. Maybe Rinat has a different opinion, but this is what be my recommendation. I think this is also Rinat's target to use this one.
So it's good. Thanks, Jennifer. I think also being with the latest one, it's always good in the software platform. But as we are already including new features still to adaptive and trying to be better in quality, I think to follow this track and also to be part of this work is a crucial thing for the whole community.
Thank you. The next question goes to Huzaifa. Restricted access to SOA, is this mostly or only applicable for safety applications?
Mm-hmm. So I understand this question in two contexts. One is the service-oriented architecture itself. That is not purely a safety thing. It is a design decision. And RCOM implementation or realization with respect to skeleton proxies, that is basically all in this context. The restriction, if I understood that correctly, would probably be more from security-driven perspective, whether such a feature should be restricted or not with respect to the access. And I think identity and access management would have a restriction on RCOM and only allow certain applications. And those applications must not only be safety, they might be even more than that. Maybe Adrian can put a bit more context to this. Or is it sufficient to what I said?
Adrian, do you want to comment?
So on the restricted to the restricted access to service-oriented communication, right?
Yeah.
So the identity and access management allows the restriction to restrict the access to service-oriented communication on a platform and on a network level between different ECUs.
Okay, thank you. Since there is a question, I think it's a question which relates to a person who is member of the SC. So Rinat, you probably should answer it. There is no AUTOSAR membership for independent expert, single person, startup, etc. Do you have any plan for supporting, extending such membership?
I must correct here a little bit. So there is a subscriber partnership which can be looked up also in the overview on our homepage of different partnership types, where an individual person can apply for participating. And yeah, so this is somehow already tackled and handled.
Okay, I think that's something which we can later on even discuss in the networking area. If somebody is interested to join the AUTOSAR community, we have a special section on explaining the partnership roles and establishing some connections to people who are interested to join AUTOSAR. Then we have a next question to Adrian. Is there any plan to support ISO 21434 in classic platform? If yes, how?
Yeah, so okay, this is quite a complex question. So first of all, I think we need to understand that ISO 21434, it's a standardization on process development level, while in AUTOSAR we do standardization on product level. So of course, the partners that are contributing in AUTOSAR are already following the ISO 21434. So of course, when we provide the specification, we already cover some parts of the product development phase that is covered by AUTOSAR. For example, we do have we do define cybersecurity goals, and we do a threat analysis and so on. Of course, we cannot do all the parts. We cannot make an impact analysis, for example, in a TARA approach, because the impact might be different from one OEM to another or from one use case to another. But as I mentioned, we are following all the companies that are providing support for AUTOSAR specification are already following the standards. And this is how we interact with ISO 21434.
Oh, thank you, Adrian. So the next question is, going forward, car is also a part of the Internet of Things, and IoT has protocols defined, and how AUTOSAR would bridge this gap. I think it's relating much to our future strategy. So Rinat, probably you can answer it.
Yeah, of course. So everybody would like to give this vision. So we cannot look to the future, but you're right. We're part of AOT, part of the huge environment, and we are part of also standardization organizations that are broader than AUTOSAR. And that's why we will catch up with all ISO, IEEE, and other standards that are really having the demands to bring the industrialization to our cars. And I'm just mentioning some of the protocols. So there's some usage of joiner, of MQTT, of several, I think, different protocols for this purpose. And there will be a step to support them, especially with adaptive.
Okay, thank you. So next question is, many communication buses used frequently in vehicles, but not included in AUTOSAR standards, e.g. CENT, IEC. Does any support plan in the following release version exist? Who can answer this one? I think, Rinat, you again.
So these standards are not on the roadmap. We try to really bring the people or the companies together to AUTOSAR to be compliant on bus level, because this is where our cars will crash if you're not applying the standards that are used among the cars.
Mm-hmm. So the next question is, will you provide minutes related to this Q&A session? So is there any documentation on the questions and answers which we gave? Rinat, have you?
Yeah, we can formulate some answers also to make it readable, I think, in the afterwards, and yeah, share that with you with the slides as well. Because the questions are very good, and I even think that you're digging deeper as it was intended, and it's very great because we will have that as well in the networking sessions now. And yeah, we will try to summarize the questions and give technical-wise good answers to this.
Okay, so that's, I think, very good for the audience, and you will have then a good documentation of the discussion which we have here. The next question goes to both Jennifer and Rinat. Clarification on my adaptive implementation question, which AUTOSAR version to use for an SOP 2024 from before. I meant implementation, vector, ethos, and not specification.
That's easy to answer. AUTOSAR does not give any recommendations which vendor to use. So you will have to figure that one out for yourself. I'm sure the salespeople of these companies will be happy to help you in your decision, but we're not giving any recommendations on this one for sure.
Yes, the approach is, thanks, Jennifer, that I don't have to say that. So the approach is we come together to what we can standardize in the standard, bring that out to the release, and everybody can enjoy the things we bring in and make it usable inside of their perspective, make a timeline out of that, and going the next step with liability issues and other topics.
It's the same with the basic software stack, which you can have from different companies, and we don't give any recommendation which one to take.
That's right.
So next question is, have you ever considered releasing a demonstrator of classic platform? This might leveraging some existing open source implementation. Are there any plans existing? Any discussions, Rinat?
This is also a decision that is made by companies, not by the standard.
Okay. Why is it not allowed to implement adaptive AUTOSAR as open source implementation? This would be truly an open model and opens the door for new mobility players.
So
you know, I think it's yeah.
Who's okay? Sorry. It is of course open in the AUTOSAR organization. Have to go deeper a little bit on the license side. So there is, in the license, we talk about AUTOSAR work. AUTOSAR work is everything that's part of the specification in this brackets you might know in the specification, but also the AUTOSAR demonstrator is part of the AUTOSAR work, which we release. And the license is covering as well the part of the demonstrator. So that's why we would like to really have that in a good quality in hand and part of the community.
Well, thank you. The next question is again a question relating to the partnership role subscriber. So the one person in the audience asks, the subscriber membership is not open for cooperation in working groups. Is there any plan to extend it to be able to join working group activities?
So we can talk about that as well in the networking session. So what's the intention here? I just can invite here, but the subscriber, as you say, is right now a hearing or a reading person, and can be done with individuals. Yeah, as it's planned for now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Then the next question is, what is the official release status of adaptive platform? Is it still draft? Answer by TM AP. There is
so we don't.
no,
yeah, maybe.
You read it. You have read it already?
Yes, so I can get it.
Okay.
So we don't have a status per release. We have a status per specification item. I think that's also what Nadim is writing here. So basically, each specification item within our many specs has a life cycle draft, which means that we're not guaranteeing right now that this is stable and valid, where we give guarantees that this is stable, usable, and we're not going to change it backwards incompatibly. So we have already achieved a certain amount of valid spec items in adaptive platform, and as Rinat I think already mentioned in his talk, we are targeting a much higher percentage of valid spec items for the upcoming release. So yeah, the answer is no, it's not draft, because there is no life cycle for the entire adaptive platform. But yes, a large percentage of the spec items are still draft, and it is one of our primary objectives for the next release to make more of that valid.
Thank you. So next question is, does adaptive platform has any plans to support CAN communication? Rinat.
No, I will give this to Manfred because he's born for this. I think he's good at it.
Yeah, thank you for these questions. The demand of having support next to service-oriented communication, also to support signal-based communication, is already there. So we see it, and therefore we, in general, have the idea to have this service to signal mapping. So it's, I would say it's a general support, the signal service mapping, it's called like this, to also then enable the adaptive platform. Regarding the current status, maybe because we have so many topics on the table, maybe I can forward this question to a colleague if you have further details. But the summary is, yes, we also think about signal to service mapping for adaptive.
Thank you. Then the next question is, where can we find the explanatory document for usage of AUTOSAR runtime interface, AUTOSAR classic platform and adaptive platform? I think, Jennifer, you can answer it.
So it should be part of the release documents, but for the specific link, I would have to do that offline to hunt it down.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you. So person should be in contact with you to clarify where to find it. So next question is, IDS manager and reporter will transmit security-related events to backend system. Has the interface for external communication been already defined in AUTOSAR? So our security expert can answer it.
Yeah, so the communication to the backend side, it's not standardized, and the type of communication protocol that you might have with your backend may depend on the solution you deployed in your security operations center. So we focus on standardizing the protocol for transmission of security events in the vehicle network, because there we really have an issue of interoperability between different ECUs that you can receive from different OEMs. While when you address the communication to the backend, basically you have to take care of the transmission protocol to the backend, maybe on one single ECU that will report to the backend. Yeah. So we didn't standardize yet. It's not in the scope so far. But if you have any suggestions, yeah, please contact us.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Thank you. So we have still some questions. Is there any change in the ARTI-ARR-XML representation with this AUTOSAR release? I think who can answer it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I've seen as the history, and with this I'll also answer the previous question where we can find this document. I've just opened it in parallel, and So the only changes that are quite evident on the change history are that there is an introduction to the example implementation and configuration updates. And where you can find it actually is in this release R20-11. There is one sub folder called SW-ARC, and there's this explanatory document, Classic Platform ARTI.
Okay, Huzaifa. Yeah,
maybe
somebody wants
to add something else. To add also, there is in every document a change history and change documentation, so you can track down what changes are related to any specific topic.
Okay, that's. Next question also goes to Huzaifa. What recommendation on open software certification with respect to safety?
This is a tricky question. I mean, this is a question that we ask ourselves and try to evaluate. With respect to POSIX, if that's the idea, if you're talking in that direction, I think open source standards are basically not so easy to certify for safety because there are times poor documentation, poor architecture, etc. But this doesn't now the newer minds of functional safety engineering would tell you that doesn't forbid you to probably make a certification out of it. It's just a lot of effort, and if someone is willing to put in that effort, then why not? But is there any recommendation document, etc., that could give you exactly what you need to do apart from ISO 26262? I don't think there's much. So you really need to put in the effort, go to ISO 26262 and try to have your open source product completely then aligned with those requirements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe because it also comes to a direction of processes. You can change the standard, or you can change your implementation of it. And I also we should also ask ourselves if the ISO standard 26262 is capable to handle this topic at the moment.
Next question is, several partners have considered productionizing AP demonstrator but decided against because of too low quality of it. This is opposite to answer before on OSS. Yeah, do you want to comment?
Yes, sure. So the APD, of course, we had the approach that it feels a little bit from a more quality perspective for some years. But on the other side, we see also a lot of suppliers really working on the APD on own products. So that's really helpful with a quality approach. So we concentrate with the APD on the validation, because the sooner we bring in a technology, we need to validate it. That's the pre-track. If we stop there and say, from there on, we are pretty sure it's working, please continue with your approach in your product relation. It fits to the classic platform approach as well, and helps us also with in collaboration.
Okay, next question is yeah, okay, you want to add something?
Just wanted to, I think one of the original question was here why you can't put adaptive AUTOSAR demonstrator code under an open source license. And basically it's because this open source license would then violate the AUTOSAR license. So to use AUTOSAR commercially, you need to be an AUTOSAR partner. If you then make an open source project and stick an open source license file in there, then people who are not aware of this would assume they can use this maybe for commercial production and would not intentionally violate the AUTOSAR license. So we have some license issues here, actually.
I think that was an important point. Yeah. One question is, I think it goes to Manfred. How much of throughput can adaptive handle? Car equipped for AD generates about 8 gigabytes.
Well, I would say this question is more a question to the realization of the standard. Of course, we have the demonstrator, but mainly, of course, we are focusing on the specification. So I would say this is more an hardware-related issue. So the AUTOSAR ourselves does not, let's say, has any limits about throughputs or so.
Okay, so we have to come to an end quite soon. So one last question. Do you plan to support CAN XL with upcoming AUTOSAR releases? I think you can answer it as well, Manfred.
Yes, thank you for this question also. So due to the layered architecture of classic AUTOSAR, it's quite straightforward to add additional buses from the automotive world. So this is also true for CAN XL. And yes, I'm very optimistic that we will support it in one of the upcoming AUTOSAR releases.
Thank you. And I received a latest question here. Which working group is responsible for concepts on inter-platform communication topics?
Well, maybe I can take this question also. So we have in AUTOSAR the working group A, it's called, so the architecture working group, and these have is somehow divided into the classic world and adaptive, but of course they talk to each other. For AUTOSAR, it is important that we have or we ensure the interoperability between adaptive and the classic world. So therefore we have the so-called foundation, which specify all platform independent protocols. So to answer the question, these let's say concepts are then also, let's say, the architects will have a look on it. But this is true basically to all of the concepts that we double check the impact to the platforms.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are at the end of this session. I would ask the audience for further questions to join our networking area. You can bring in your questions in the networking area, even your comments. I think we otherwise would extend too long this session. So I would like to thank all experts and speakers who have contributed to the success of this release event. Also all the people in the background who helped to organize this event. I would like to thank you very much to the audience who was very active, very lively. You brought in many questions. I enjoyed very much the discussion which we had, and I encourage you to continue with your questions and comments in our networking area, and we are still available for another hour for in-depth discussion. So thank you all, and thank you for this exciting event.